In this episode of Business Success with Graeme and Leanne Carling, the couple are travelling to Surrey, England, to visit someone who is regarded as one of the most successful business people in the UK, a lady who has been awarded a CBE by the Queen for her services to entrepreneurship, women in business and social enterprise, and is estimated to be in the top 20 richest women in the country. This is, of course, Jacqueline Gold, a lady who is best known for her leadership of high street brands Ann Summers and Knickerbox. You are watching Business Success. Business Success is the programme where Graeme and Leanne Carling discuss business with other industry leaders from around the world. Graeme and Leanne themselves building a group of companies through the strategy of company acquisition, which now has a multi-million-pound group turnover and employs hundreds of people across the country. Today, they are meeting Jacqueline Gold, who has had a very different approach to growth. Among other things, together they will be discussing the challenges faced by big businesses over the last 3 years, their approach to overcoming those challenges, and how this, ultimately, will make their business stronger moving forward.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline, for inviting us to your home today. It's absolutely stunning, and your journey so far in business has been absolutely inspiring. But what we're speaking about, or we've been speaking about ourselves, is the changes on the high street and obviously COVID in the last couple of years. How did you and your team, what changes did you make and what did you implement to make improvements and ride the change?
I mean, who'd ever thought we'd be in this situation? And yeah, I mean, it was, I actually remember sitting on my coffee table in this room watching, you know, the government of Boris and Rishi, when Boris in particular, say that we're going to have to close all the stores. I mean, that was, you know, I've been in business 40 years now. That was heartbreaking to know that suddenly, you know, over 100 stores were going to have to close their doors, and that was obviously going to impact, you know, all of our people. So that was, you know, an incredible moment that I will never forget. But, you know, I think people in retail are very resilient. I think, you know, business people in general are good at adapting. Obviously, we've all seen so many casualties on the high street, which has been really tragic. But it was an interesting journey for us. First of all, I mean, it just shows we have such a fantastic team, because we were all on calls on Teams. Suddenly we all adapted to Teams overnight, and we're all talking every day, and you know, we're all on a mission trying to make this work. Initially, you know, we had that 2 weeks of, you know, cash flow was a massive concern. I remember being on weekly BRC calls with other well-known high street retailers, and you know, most companies were running out of cash within 3 months, and we were no exception. You know, it was, you know, at that point we still had lots of bills to pay. We do have a very good marketing team, fantastic marketing team, who did a brilliant job in engaging with our customers on social media. And we sold out of penis pasta within a couple of weeks, along with all the toilet rolls that were being sold. So we suddenly realised there were great opportunities engaging with people. You know, I was cooking up my pasta dish with our penis pasta. Aldo Zilli was doing the same, and we got people involved and made it quite fun and very engaging. But there were other things that were also, you know, quite, that we managed to change and adapt in this dire situation. Our heritage party plan division, which is, you know, our sort of sisterhood direct selling, couldn't do parties in people's homes anymore, so they started doing Zoom parties and parties online. So, and because people were very uncertain about their jobs, we went from 4,000 sales ambassadors to 20,000 because they wanted that side hustle, doing something alongside their main job, which they didn't know if it was going to still be there. So we were very fortunate that, you know, things were picking up, and even in retail where the doors were closed, we were working on some fantastic projects and campaigns for the future. And during that time, you know, we've grown the business and found ways to grow the business. And then when we were able to open our stores, you know, there was a big concern at that time for retail. All retailers were trying to get money from the banks. But the banks were really anti-retail because they thought that with the increase online, with, you know, people's websites growing, that people wouldn't go back to retail. Yeah. But definitely for us, that wasn't the case. And, you know, as soon as the stores were open again, people wanted that experience. Yes, it's changed in the sense that people don't, you know, they come in, there's less people coming into the store, but when they do come in, there's intent. They know what they want. They spend longer browsing, they spend more. So it's certainly changed, but we feel we've adapted well to that change.
I think you touched on the banks there, and you know, we were speaking earlier about when COVID first hit. We had said it's like life support. You know, all these CBILS loans, etc., that were available for certain companies or certain sectors. We always felt there might have been something, you know, or problems off the back of that, and we're starting to see that now in some of the companies that we own. Have you seen any of that?
So I mean, there were a number of problems for us. One was we didn't manage to get a bank loan, and there were a lot of retailers saying the same problem. So that was a challenge. I think that rents was a big problem for us, and I know you guys were in property, and I'm sure you're familiar with this. But we had actually, prior to the lockdown, been trying to renegotiate with landlords. We had been successful with some, and we'd been doing this for about 18 months before. And those that we couldn't get over the line, we were forced into doing a CVA, not for the whole business, but just with landlords. And now we're very fortunate, we're in a position where we don't have any loss-making stores. And you know, those long leases that we were all sort of trapped into. And I think it's been difficult for landlords, of course, it's been difficult for retailers, but when you're in this situation, you have to share the pain. And that's what we were lobbying for. We need to share the pain here. You know, that has certainly helped us.
Well, just to touch on that, we are landlords, and we were working closely with we've got a lot of residential properties, so it was, you know, people are being affected, you know, so working with people, you know, hearing their stories, negotiating, you know, ways to work around everything and working together. So it's worked, I think, for our business, it worked really well for us, you know, just actually working together.
And you know what, it's fantastic to hear that, because, you know, for years that wasn't really happening, and sadly, of course, there were landlords that went out of business. You know, so you know, lots of companies were affected.
So in terms of the team, so I mean, what we've found is through the COVID period, so we have our team of internal people and external advisors, and now we had to go through very similar. The construction and property construction sector shut down. couldn't get CBILS loans, or very difficult to get CBILS loans. And some of the companies, others, there was a chance, but it was...
And like you, the stores shut down, we were off-site, you know,
Yeah.
no one on site.
And in Scotland in particular, it was stricter, it would appear, than what it was down here. Well, yeah, you know, so, you know that. So, what we found is going through that period, negotiating. We had, we were trying to negotiate our way through and navigate with some businesses that we'd purchased. One business in particular, we'd purchased out of administration only not even 12 months before it. So it didn't have a chance to build up any good balance sheet or any cash really. So it was hand to mouth in that particular business. So it couldn't get a loan, it couldn't get CBILS loan, it couldn't get anything that, all these support mechanisms that were seemingly available. It was a struggle. But we managed to see it off. We seen through COVID. But what we found is that now we've came out, it told you a lot about your team internally and your external advisors. And we've had to make some big shifts in our business. How has that been for you?
Yeah, I mean, it really does. I really resonated as you were talking there, because, well, first of all, it was fantastic to see that sort of, we're all in this together. And, we'd have on that, we'd sort of have this, our skeleton team, and we did have to put some people on furlough to begin with. And our skeleton team, we were all on the calls every day, all levels, from CEO right down. And there was that sort of camaraderie that, you don't really see normally. That was fantastic. And I it was quite emotional at times for us all. And I felt very, very proud. To be working with such committed and caring people, and that worked incredibly hard as well. Just because they were working from home, they're working incredibly hard. We tried to do a lot of things to make sure that we took care of their well-being, and a lot of this came up on our calls with the BRC, and I was looking into what other brands were doing. Because it was very difficult for some people. It's all very well if you're in a big house and you've got space, but there were some people working out of their bedrooms, or in flats, or in a crowded space, or difficult circumstances. Even people with issues at home and things. These were really real challenges. So we did a lot of work with the Retail Trust, who I'm also an ambassador for. And they did an amazing job. We also made a point of keeping in touch with our people that were on furlough, making them, reassuring them, keeping them in touch. I think it was really important to be as transparent as you could possibly be. And of course the same, we would have, online celebrations and things just to make everybody feel as valued as possible. That's something that's sort of come quite natural to our business, but we really had to up our game and really make sure that everybody did feel as valued as we could make them.
Yeah. So so I think in terms of the business now, then, I mean, given the changes during COVID with the stores closed and moving a lot towards online, then it's coming back again. How do you see that going forward? I mean, what's the grabbing the great parts of the online piece of but still having the in-store experience? How do you see that shaping for Ann Summers going forward?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is to look at the success stories during the lockdown, and I think those companies that have actually looked for the opportunities during what has been a difficult time, just even locally, Flower Farm, for example, down the road, they've had like an outside beer garden and things that they didn't do before,
yeah.
But you could see that they were doing their best and adapting to that situation, and I've noticed they're now still doing it. They've extended that, so people are sort of shopping in a different way. More people are obviously shopping online. They want more of an experience in store. We as a business, we've gone from sort of 4 routes to market to 6 routes to market. So we're now doing drop ship, and we you know, marketplace, and we have another one that I can't talk about today, but is very exciting. And obviously we've been looking at ways to grow our business, and we've done that mainly through category extension. So you know, during the lockdown we've been doing a lot of the preparation for that, so already some of those things have gone live. So whereas we've always been known for lingerie, toys, novelties and swimwear, you know, we did Ann Summers during lockdown. We brought out birthday suit because it also coincided with the whole diversity thing. And now, you know, our campaigns, we have 9 models in our squad, which are all from diverse backgrounds, which is something I'm really, really proud of. And that's, you know, that's something we've continued to do, and we've mixed up, and we've got trans models, we've obviously got cultures, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and we've got, you know, one model, Sean, who has a prosthetic leg. So it's just showing that everyone, all women can be sexy. And also we have influencers, professional models, customers. So we have, you know, different backgrounds showing that, again, everybody can be sexy. So we've really had a great deal of fun doing that. So that really suited the birthday suit range for the diversity. And we have just brought out our new going out range, which is a new collection. And we've got some other really exciting things in the pipeline, which again, obviously we'll launch as and when, but you know, they'll be coming up soon. So certainly that category extension has been a big change for us.
I think you're right. Certainly we've seen some great stuff coming out of adversity, if you like, you know, during COVID, and you know, the businesses that have been really innovative and changed direction, and actually came up with completely new business models and off the back of
and
it.
Complete different ways of working as well, and working better as teams, you know, just everyone pulling together.
It reminds me of 50 Shades of Grey. So I don't know if you remember, but when it first sort of went viral really on social media, you know, nobody had ever heard of this book, which admittedly was never going to win a literary award. But, you know, because of the Kindle and everything, women were able to, you know, read them on trains and round the, you know, on their holiday sunbeds, etc. And it did take off. It did go absolutely mental. And I did notice again that there was our local carpet shop had, you know, 50 shades of beige. You know? So it's important, I think, when you have these moments in time, which will happen again, it's okay, how can we make this work for our business? How can we do something creative that will capture people's imagination? Yeah.
Well, I think just going back to, I remember when we were locked down, you know, and it was exactly the same horror, you know, what does this mean? What does it actually mean? And I think, you know, through the working through it, I mean, we never worked harder. You know, we're working from home.
I've never made so many calls in my life, you know, and you could get hold of people, you know, there wasn't an excuse. I'm in a board meeting, well, you're going to be in your house all day, so we'll get you at some time. So
and our team that came together during that piece, exactly, we were really the same, and people really got stuck in, you know, and really embraced it, and we came through that. And well, actually, you know, our businesses, a lot of them have become stronger because of it, you know, and we're
the team certainly has.
The team self. But what we're finding, I think, us now for the challenges now, is on the funding in the marketplace. Now that I'm not saying the funding, but you know, the availability is drying up, whether it's CBILS loans or recovery loans and all this stuff. It almost like now. It's like we were speaking about this the other day. It's like getting the vaccine, but you don't know what the side effects are going to be.
Yeah.
You know, so now we're getting some of the side effects seem to be coming into market, and we have one business ourselves in particular where, you know, it's seen through the COVID situation, but the banks, because they they'd done an HMRC time to pay agreement at the time, maybe got a CBILS loan. The banks are now taking a high risk view on, well, we don't really like that. We don't really like this time to pay. Although that's what was available and you were encouraged to do at the time. So we're seeing that, particularly in the construction sector, which is viewed as high risk, and we're seeing a lot of businesses now that are really starting to wobble. How is that? Are you seeing any of that stuff, or in the?
Well, I think the thing with banks, and it's like, you know, it's interesting you saying you could get people on Teams very easily, and I think you still can, because there is that culture now where we're sort of carrying on with it, and I think that does present an opportunity to, you know, carry on building relationships. And I think one of the things that we did, although we didn't get our loan during COVID, we have built up a very good relationship with Barclays, for example. And you know, these relationships don't happen overnight. You know, you build those relationships. You know, and it's a bit like networking. You don't just go to a networking event and then start pitching. You know, it's a relationship that you build that trust over time. And I think that has certainly helped us, and that's what I always advise, you know, other people that are struggling. It's about building those relationships, I think is really important. Because, you know, there's no doubt that banks are still risk averse. And, you know, whilst things have improved, there are other challenges. You know, obviously Brexit for some businesses, certainly ours has been challenging. And who would have thought we'd come out of a pandemic and go straight into a war? You know, you just and that's had its impact on some businesses. We know that the consumer is much more cautious, and you know, if you're a business that, you know, like us, that has discretionary spend, you know, you've got to, you know, again, we've got more adapting to do.
Yeah. So where do you see Ann Summers being 5 years' time? How does it look? Is it look different? Is it just more of the same? Just developing what you're doing at the moment?
I think it will definitely look different. I think, you know, Ann Summers, I'm very confident about our expansion plans, which we've already started. We have some very exciting projects, 2 in particular, which sadly I can't talk about today. But I think both of those projects, you know, will put us in a very, very good position for the future, definitely.
So you work very closely with your sister.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that? Okay, Graeme and I are husband and wife, and we've worked together all our since we met, all our days. And there are challenges with that, but we get on really, really well. We know what we're good at. You know, we support each other's strengths and weaknesses, and we know to stay in our lane. So I always say to him, get back in your lane, do what you're good at, and let me do what I'm good at. Do you have the same relationship with your sister? Or?
Well, first of all, she's an incredible businesswoman. I mean, she really is. And we're very similar, actually, in many ways. But, you know, you're absolutely right. You do have your different strengths, and she certainly knows where her strengths are. You know, and I have my areas of strength. So I think, you know, it's like anybody that you bring into the business. You want them to complement you, don't you? You know, you want, and certainly I feel we really do complement each other. We have a fantastic relationship, which really helps. And I think that, you know, with family businesses, I think that if you have the same vision, I mean, I think if you share the vision, you know what you want that end goal to be. Yes, you might have, you know, clashes occasionally, which we have very rarely, but we have the same end goal. You know, it's only passion that you know, creates maybe you know, those moments. But I mean, she has been incredible, especially as I've had health issues. She's done a fantastic job in managing the business. And one thing I'd like to say as well, you know, we're talking about our teams. I think this was a real opportunity as well for, you know, our people in our business, because it really gave them the opportunity to show what they were capable of. And one of the things that I love so much is that, you know, now that we've sort of come out of the worst of it, you know, there's some people that have, you know, been promoted and have you know, really shone, and you know, you can really see they're going to, you know, really have got a future in the business and you know, in their career. So it's great to always see that, isn't it?
And you might not have seen that, you know, otherwise.
No,
you know, and that's some of the.
I'm thinking of a couple of the girls that work in my team, and they've just come on.
Yeah, they've excelled.
You know, and
yeah.
I'm so proud of them. You know what they've done, and they just went for it. You know, you took the challenge head on and went for it. There's obviously we've went through challenging times in the last couple of years. Has there at any point have you had to change any of your advisors, so external advisors, internal advisors, or your internal team?
Well, certainly we have, unfortunately, had to let some people go right at the beginning. I think it's because when you go through a challenge like this, you have different requirements. Actually, you need people that are perhaps more flexible. And I don't mean in their hours, I mean in being able to adapt to taking on different responsibilities and multiple responsibilities, because none of us knew where this was going to go. So that was incredibly sad and also difficult, because you're trying to keep your existing people, you know, upbeat and motivated and obviously not feeling concerned. We did actually close a couple of our stores, but we also opened some stores because there were new opportunities. So we were able to redeploy our sales team, so that was good news. And we were able to recruit where we needed people for different requirements. Actually, I think that was quite challenging, because I don't know about you, but we had a number of people that were in lockdown for, you know, a year. Working from home, and then when we all came back to the office, you know, they were having to build relationships from the beginning. That was quite difficult, and or difficult for them. So, you know, for us, you know, for the existing team, we perhaps didn't appreciate how difficult that might have been for them. But yeah, that was a challenge we hadn't experienced before.
I think we had to bolster our team. Because we were experiencing changes and things, we had to bolster our team with experts that were experts in their field, with sectors and things that we hadn't dealt with before. So, you know, we were having to seek out different advisors for legal things, different advisors for, you know, accountancy issues, or so we actually bolstered our team and built relationships with different people. So I felt we met more people through the COVID period.
And I think people were more willing to do those introductions. And actually, I remember having quite a few calls online, people just wanting to one-on-one network, you know, and you know, it was particularly, you know, for myself, it was great to be able to do that, because normally you don't have the time.
Yeah.
But because you're forced to work from home, you know, suddenly I had the time to do more of that. And, you know, the reverse, I think that was really helpful. And generally, I think there's more of a culture now of introducing people, and because, you know, we do realise it's not easy out there.
Just to touch on that, my main job within our group is acquisitions. So that's where I found it really handy, because I was having a lot of calls and people were available. But as you say, I think a lot of people they had more time, they were looking for the relationship, they were looking for the communication. And I've built up a whole host of contacts that they might not be looking to sell their business just now, but keep in touch, which I do, and they might sell in the future. So the relationships.
Yeah, and I mean that, you know, it's great to hear that, but I can also say we actually did some great deals online, you know, and we set up partnerships with Next and John Lewis. We had partnerships with Skinny Dip. So there were quite a few partnerships that we hadn't had before. And maybe again, that's because people were more accessible and able to have those meetings quicker.
Yeah.
I can remember us completing an acquisition and then we got the call at 11 o'clock at night, and you're sitting in your pyjamas, and
Yes,
you know, you're excited to celebrate, and then you can't go anywhere. But
that was mid-lockdown.
mid-lockdown.
First lockdown, yeah. So I think just on, I mean, in terms of business growth, then we're how we build our business and how we are looking to build our business. Very much, we're very focused on acquisition-based growth, as well as organic growth, but mainly through acquisitions, and that's how we've done it so far, and we continue to really have our drive around. It's probably 80-90% acquisition growth rather than organic to get scale fast. You've done obviously acquisitions previously, and Knickerbox and various others. For Ann Summers, or for the future going forward, how do you see the growth coming? Do you see acquisitions coming, or is it going to be organic-based growth?
So I think it will be 3 areas, some of which I've mentioned. One will be category extension, as I've explained. Secondly, which I can't talk about right now, will be new channels. And the third one is actually acquisition. So I agree with that. And I think the reason for us is because where we talk about category extension, you know, there are businesses that have already started that process that maybe are more experts. And I think there are small businesses out there actually, and I'm not talking about necessarily big acquisitions, but I think there are small acquisitions where we've got the expertise, the resource to develop something, and you know, and we have been in talks with companies that we're already really interested in. So yeah, I think that's got exciting opportunities as well.
You touch on that. We've actually acquired companies before because of the expertise within the team, which we've found really interesting and a good bolster for the company. Yeah,
so we're on the face of it, the business itself wasn't a big business or anything, or you know, you looked at the numbers, you say, well, okay, you know, yeah, it's decent, but what they had was a skill set and staff, you know, we needed the staff, we needed the skill set there. So we've done some acquisitions mainly for that skill set.
So we've also looked at, you know, a partnership. And have you only gone for acquisitions, or are you happy with?
Yeah, well, I think we've really only gone for acquisitions so far. Yeah, that's been. I think we'd be open to that.
Yeah, definitely. There's been a couple of
yes.
companies that have came across the table that you would like to partnership with, but we've just never done it yet.
No, we've ended up.
But we would be open.
Yeah.
And it's strange as well how, I don't know about you, but how some of those opportunities have come about, because you don't necessarily always see those smaller businesses. But I think in the networking that we've been doing and the introductions, and you know, even through my WOW network, I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's amazing how many quality small businesses there are out there that don't always, you know, get recognised or noticed.
Yeah.
You know, to touch on the WOW, that's what, 10 years now that's been going on?
It probably is about 10 years.
So you must have seen some fantastic...
I really have, and actually recently, well, shall I explain what the WOW, my WOW? So I do this competition every Wednesday called WOW, which stands for Women on Wednesday. And it came about because when I started my account on Twitter years ago, when I really didn't know what I was doing, I sort of noticed the people that were engaging with me and asking questions, and a lot of them, you know, were women that had sort of given up their job because they felt there was a glass ceiling standing in their way, and started their own businesses and just simply wanted advice. So I do this competition every Wednesday where they tweet, or if it's on Instagram, and you know, the different social channels, they tell me about their business, and I go through and I look at the business, and I'm particularly looking for something that's unique, that's scalable, and that has a good website, you know, a sort of good showroom, if you like. And then I'll select my best one for the week, profile it, do press releases. They join our WOW network on Facebook, interact with each other. And then at the end of the year, I pick my top 3 and I take them out for a mentoring lunch. And we also do 6 months later a learning day at our head office where they can meet experts that they need to meet, you know, that they would like to engage with. And we've done market days at Christmas. We've done a number of different things which have been great fun. But I've recently just held the lunch mentoring session, which was great because there's some fantastic businesses there. We had Toast in the Post, which again was born out of lockdown. I mean, this is a small business that has got so much potential. And actually, on some of our celebratory events that we did online, we used Toast in the Post, which was like champagne, and it was all sort of personalised, and you know, that was fantastic. And to receive that in the post, a glass and a little bottle of champagne that was personalised, I can think of so many uses for that type of business, and you know, sort of parties that they can use them from, even invitations, you know, wedding invitations. So they were fantastic. I'd had a business in the past called Scruffy Little Cat, who does designs on jute bags and beach towels and even suitcases. They've been extremely popular. And then there was, we've had another business that was very successful, you know, as selling organic snacks in Waitrose. So it's great to see these women do really well. And actually, when they interact with each other, it's amazing how much, you know, they share and actually trade with each other, some of them. So, yeah, I've got thousands now, and thousands of these women that are interacting with each other. But yeah, I've really enjoyed doing that.
And do you invest in any of these businesses? Do you take it, or are these just a mentorship thing? Or
I think if I had the time, it would be fab to do that. But I think just, you know, giving them advice and the introductions, actually, just being able to say, I've got a solution for that. You know, I'll introduce you to somebody I know there.
That's priceless.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I think so many small businesses are nervous about approaching Fortnum and Masons, for example, or are frightened to approach John Lewis, or not on the high street is a great one for the small businesses. But these businesses, you know, they are looking for something different. And it really is, you know, you've got nothing to lose by, you know, picking up the phone and saying, you know, I've got this great idea, can I come along and see you? And I really try and encourage them to do that.
Jacqueline, I heard on, I think it was the Stephen Bartlett podcast that I think you said you had no business experience, you know, you're obviously going to be back then, and you were almost naive, and you took a lot of feedback from your customers. Is that still not the naive bit or the business experience, but the customer?
Absolutely, Leanne. And, you know, most businesses are, you know, come about through passion and, you know, an idea that somebody sees, and certainly in my case. And I was 21 years old. I didn't have any business experience. And actually what I thought was a big disadvantage at the time, and put me in a difficult position, turned out to be one of my reasons for my success, because I did actually rely on feedback from my customers, you know, and we know today that you can't do better than that. And funny enough, I met one of the WOW winners that I met with recently, Holly Moore. She runs an events company called More Events. She worked for a marketing business, left that business and set up on her own. You know, she's now turning over £4 million. She's working with some great business people, great businesses. She's worked for us, and that's, you know, going back to your question about investment, although I don't invest, you know, financially like Dragon's Den, I have Toast in the Post, More Events. I love to use these businesses because, you know, I saw their potential, thought they were great, and we have used them. So that in itself has been brilliant for them, that they can, you know, quote us as one of their customers. But, you know, again, budding entrepreneurs shouldn't see their inexperience as a disadvantage.
I completely agree.
I think on the, you know, when I heard that on the Stephen Bartlett podcast, it totally resonated with me, because when we started out, we were so naive. You know, we were just. So when I met Leanne, I remember, you know, we were working together, and she would just pick up the phone and phone the CEO or the managing director, and think nothing. It was just, I've got to deal with this. I have to get through. So I loved that. I thought, right, there was no fear, or it was right. Who's the guy I need to talk to? Right, okay, I'm going to pick the phone up, and we've kind of carried that. And I remember we were working with some people many years ago. We're building a property portfolio. And they said, well, you know, what's one of your strengths? I said, I think we're naive, you know. And she said, no, you're not naive. But it was, it was a real, I think, a plus, because you don't let the fear of it. You just go, you know.
I totally agree, and I think there's another quality that we worry about sometimes is, you know, so many, particularly in my female network, I have a number of women that say, but I just don't have your confidence, or I don't have the confidence to do X. But it's actually courage that you need more than confidence, because the confidence bit comes later. I mean, that comes with experience. Yeah, I think if we just had that courage sometimes to just put our step outside our comfort zone and ring that person, you know, they breathe the same air as us, don't they?
That's it.
So we always speak about failing and failing fast and learning from our failures. You know, because we speak about all the good stuff. Do you agree that, you know, you should share what you fail at, or, you know, sometimes there's problems? So we say share the failings, and you can learn, and other people can learn from your mistakes also?
Absolutely. I think it's so important to share those failures, because they will happen, you know, and actually that's how we learn, you know, those curveballs that are thrown at us, and often there are also opportunities in there. You know, when I think about our failures, I think of two in particular. One was quite early in my career, when I decided I wanted to publish a magazine, which was very different to Cosmopolitan and Marie Claire, but it was just much more forward-thinking and more outspoken, obviously talking about sexuality, and very much an extension of what we were doing as a business. But you know, it was quite challenging. You know, the amount of investment and not having the right experts on board. You know, I think that, you know, we might have that passion, but you do need to bring the experts in. And I think at the time I lost about £1 million, which at that time, it was a long time ago now, was a lot of money. And I really did learn from that. I think the other more painful learning, which certainly a lot of more medium-sized businesses have been through, and businesses that are growing, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but when we got to that point where our systems and our technology just couldn't cope with the growth anymore. And I'd heard it before, and I spoke to a number of people about recommendations of who we use, and it's almost inevitable that there is going to be pain to the business. I wish now I had brought in experts to manage that change rather than try and do it in-house, because I think that it is a full-time job in itself, and companies that can know what type of pain that is going to be experienced. That was extremely painful. And I think the only other lesson for me was we were a business that grew very fast. So my first year's turnover was 83,000, and then we were growing at 20% a year, which was sort of, you know, I started in 1981, and you know, it wasn't long before we were involved in, you know, we had the miners' strike and other challenges, and we were doing extremely well during that period, but we were having to throw people at the problem. So I think if I could have, what I should have done is invested in people much earlier, in quality people much earlier, because we've got some fantastic people in our business now, And I often think, gosh, if only they'd have been with us earlier, you know, we could have avoided some of those mistakes. And you talked earlier about external people. You know, we have fantastic NED in a man called Mark Gifford, who actually used to be the chairman of Debenhams. I mean, he has the wealth of experience that he has brought to our business, and particularly through the difficult times like COVID. You know, he has been invaluable. Really fantastic man.
You touched on a couple of points that we could relate with there, is not getting the professionals or the advisors that we require at the time. It's been costly for us over the years, you know, and as you say, you look back and you think, you know, I shouldn't have been so cheap. I should have went for, you know, someone that was really qualified to advise and guide us on what we were looking for. So we've been caught with that also.
And also as well, not cutting soon enough. You know, we've had some loss-making parts of our businesses, and we've maybe got too emotional about it.
You're passionate about it.
And a good team of people in there, so you're desperate to support them. But in actual fact, you know, we let that, you know, affect us.
It's the passion of wanting it to survive.
Yeah, and the emotion involved in it. And if you had simply the business hat on, you know, it's a business decision. It's kind of, you know, it's staring you in the face, but you let this.
But do you know what? I think that is the difference between, you know, your own private business, your own business, a family business, and you know, a PLC. I think there is a difference there.
Yeah.
And you know, it's got a good and a bad thing about it, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
There's for and against, definitely.
It has, yeah. And I think, I mean, we always say, you know, we're going focused, you know, right, we're going up the motorway, then bang, you know, something comes at 90 degrees. You just never seen it coming, and whacks you, you know, and you've got to deal with it. And I think as business people, we're encountering that every day, I think.
Yeah.
You know,
and do you have an NED or?
Yeah, we do, yeah. So we have our chairman is he's a wily old fox, you know. Sid, he's been, you know, he's been with us actually for the last 3 or 4 years. He's been unwell actually for a while, but he's now back. So we've got a couple of NEDs. So we've got a good board and a good team that we're at. But that has to evolve. We're aware that has to keep evolving and changing, and as the environment changes and stuff. And we've found that not a challenge, because other than we're really loyal people, and a lot of these people have been with us for a number of years, but maybe they're just, you know, the environment's shifted, and that's not just quite easy when they've been with you for a period. It's not like a PLC where they're a name and a number. That's him, you know, or that's her. That's
yeah,
you know.
of course. And we naturally employ people that we like spending time with, don't we? Yeah. And that sort of share our values and you know, our vision. So of course that is difficult, but I always say we've always got to do what's in the best interest of the company, haven't we, to protect everybody.
Protect everybody, yeah. Well, and that's a good point. I mean, it's one of the main things that, you know, when we've seen, you know, when we've encountered troubles, if you like, with certain areas or departments, it's when, you know, their self-interests are there, and our role has always been to look after the whole. Always been to look after the whole, and we never lose sight of that. And that's, you know, that creates friction and challenges when people are jockeying for position, but you know that there's a bit of skullduggery going on possibly between departments or businesses. Yeah. So we've found.
I so agree, Graeme.
Yeah.
I totally 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
We have a story that we go way back to when we started, and we had a couple of properties. So this older woman came to sell her property, but she wanted to live in it. So she wanted to release the money out of the property so that she could go to New York, Miami. You know, her and her friend were in their 70s. So she says, I want to sell you my house and I want to live in it until I die. And we were like, right, okay. So now we always say, you know, if there's anything untoward going on, we have to look after Ella. You know, she's, you know, and the people like that in our business. So, but she was this one reason that we were like, we have to make this work.
Yeah, if our business goes down because, you know, we had other people trashing the properties or not paying, we had to take a business-like approach to it, because we were responsible.
For all these other people.
We'd promised Ella, so we've always looked at the whole as opposed to, and that's tough at times when you're trying to get dragged. So
looking at where you've came from and where you are now, what advice would you give your younger self?
Gosh, well, certainly investing in people earlier, I think is an important one. I would say there are two things. One is networking. I didn't network enough. I didn't really realise the value till later in life. And I actually think that's more of a female trait, because I think that, whereas men can do a lot of networking socially, whether that be on, my husband is brilliant, he's in mortgages and loaning people money basically, and he does a lot of his networking on the golf course. But I never really did that, going to networking events. So I definitely, because you meet a stranger and you just never know how that's going to change your life. So I definitely wished I had networked more. The one thing I would like to share is I think this is something particularly for women. Women often don't have the same confidence that men do. We often hear imposter syndrome mentioned, and I can't do that. I mean, when I was younger, I was quite shy, and that probably put me off going to networking events. And I think one of the things I encourage my WOW winners to do is to write an email to themselves of all the things that they've achieved in their lives, because it's not just new, startups that lack in confidence. I've met hugely successful women that still have confidence issues, and it's partly a cultural thing. But I think if you can write that email to yourself of all the things you've achieved, and then when you have either a wobble or you've got a big, you're going on stage for the first time, or you're doing a TV interview, or whatever it might, an important job interview or pitch, is just read back that email to yourself and just remind yourself of how awesome you really are. And I think it's so powerful and it's so helpful for people. That is some advice that has worked for me in the past.
Thank you, Jacqueline, again for inviting us to your beautiful home. This afternoon's been fantastic.
I've really enjoyed it, guys, really have. Thank you.
It's been great, and great discussion, great chat, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
From Surrey to London, we caught up with Graeme and Leanne to find out what they thought of the conversation.
What a great day yesterday. It was fantastic, obviously visiting her in her own environment, in her own house, but it was great to see or hear the challenges that she's had over the last few years. Everybody's had challenges, but pretty similar, different sector, completely different sector, but similar challenges. But what I really loved was all the positivity that she's took from the challenges and all the changes that her and her team have made, and all the exciting stuff that they've got going forward. So all the new ideas and the changes that they've made off the back of the challenges.
Yeah, I think one of the things for me was, you can imagine, well, we all had it, the call, that's it, the country is in a lockdown, your business has to close, all your businesses, all your shops, all your business, and everybody had to go through the same thing. I mean, for her, she explained that it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying for her. And I can imagine when she was explaining it, I was picturing, how that must have been for her, because we remember.
Although I was flashing back to,
yes,
to
what it was for us.
What it was for us, so it was so similar. I mean, I think she said I was sitting on my coffee table just hearing the news and letting it sink in. Yeah. So it really resonated that we were all facing similar situation.
I think with the model, it's a store model. The high street had been taking a pounding pre-COVID anyway. Then, that's it, you're closed. Then the other model, which was the party plan, so the parties, again, that stopped, everything kind of stopped. But I thought it was great how they just reacted and pivoted into the new model, the online Zoom meetings with, you know, Zoom parties effectively.
Yeah, well, I think she said, what was it? They went from 4,700 up to 20,000
Yeah.
party planners,
Yeah.
but all doing it online, which was fantastic.
It just shows you how the business model changed there then, and how they've, what was interesting was how they've, now that's permanent. You know, a lot of that stuff will be permanent. They've bounced back, obviously stores are open again and they're back doing parties, but what, you know, it's a lot of the stuff that they learned and innovated during that period, how that's now stuck and actually really is going to form a big part of their growth over the next few years. So, yeah.
I really liked when she spoke about her team and how they all started to muck in, and then how other different people stepped up to, you know, a better level, or, you know, that really, you know, shone within the team, and we experienced similar. You know, there's members of our team that really took the bull by the horns, if you like, and really excelled. So, and they're now doing better things within the company. So I really like that, you know, we had similar experiences.
You did, and I think on in terms of the challenges of the business during that period, you know, she was open about the you know, the challenges that they'd faced. It was difficult for them to get bank loans. I mean, they were in a sector. We know that being in the construction and the property sector, it was very difficult to get any sort of funding. And in the retail sector, it was exactly the same. So I mean, it was, you know, a lot of stuff really resonated with me on the challenges that we faced in our businesses over the past couple of years. And now coming out of it, you know, how do we, you know, we're saying in terms of the funding, so you've got the stimulus packages, if you like, that were available to weather the storm through COVID, but, you know, the risk profile, certainly in our sector, haven't changed. So actually, it's created other problems. So it was kind of, you know, that was, you know, we were saying it yesterday, they kind of gave you the vaccine, but you didn't know what the side effects were going to be. And ultimately, here we are, and our business is saying, well,
dealing with the side effects.
Dealing with the side effects now of the vaccine, of the stimulus, or you know, that was allowed. So it was, you know, so many businesses are in the same position and the same, have been through the same problems, same issues, and so it was interesting. We're not alone. We're not alone. We thought we might have been. It was just us, you know. But no, it's certainly not alone. I think one of the other big parts for me was, you know, our businesses growth through acquisition, and again, you know, there was 3 areas that she touched on, which was going to be, you know, new ranges, if you like, you know, within their ranges,
the product range,
So additional ranges, additional geography, and acquisition. So it's something that they've got going, but they're focused on for the growth for the next few years. So where we are mainly growth through acquisition, and we'll take organic growth as we get it. But so it's, you know, just different models, but still clear plan on growing the business and yeah, you know, how's the business going to look in the next sort of 4 or 5 years from now. So I think from a personal point of view, I mean, obviously everyone should have, you know, heard their story, or from a personal point of view, I was so inspired by, before going to meet her yesterday, so inspired by her story and how, you know, a personal
adversity,
adversity that she's overcame during during her lifetime, and still managed to grow a phenomenal business and deal with all that as well. So I mean, I was really looking forward to meeting her. She certainly lived up to the expectations as far as I'm concerned.
I think as well, what I loved is she's still, because I had heard on an interview years ago that what she done, because she started with no business experience. Obviously she's got, you know, 40 years of experience now, but she still relies on customer feedback to build her brand and her business, and I really like that. Yeah.
I thought it was a great chat yesterday. I really enjoyed it, truly inspiring. And it was great that the big takeaway for me was the brightness of the future. You know, how they've came through the challenges, how they've adapted to them, they've embraced them, and they're now using them now for the...
all the positive stuff they're going to use going forward.
Yeah, so really, you know, great day, and great to meet her. And yeah, I mean, here's looking forward to
The
our
next
next guest.
yeah.
Yep.
That's it for this episode, but tune in next time to Business Success with Graeme and Leanne Carling.